By now, you've probably already seen our coverage of the updated Royal Enfield Hunter 350, but if you have missed it, here is the gist. Royal Enfield has made small but significant improvements to this bike, and with changes made to the rear suspension, the clutch and a few feature changes, this bike is now a lot more appealing than it used to be, and the price hasn't really changed that much, although it has gone up a little for the top models. The Hunter was priced so well at its original launch in 2021 that it had no serious rivals. But this new update comes at just the right time. That's because from the moment that Bajaj slashed its price, the Triumph Speed T4 became just 20,000 rupees more than the top Hunter 350, and that makes it a proper rival. And for all practical purposes, this is a very similar motorcycle. It is a modern classic roadster and it has a very hallowed British badge on the fuel tank. So today we're going to explore what both these bikes have to offer and who they really are for. Let's start with the way they look, and I think it's quite fun that we ended up getting bikes that have similar color schemes, and honestly, when these two motorcycles are parked next to each other, they are so similar looking. They really have similar silhouettes, similar teardrop shaped fuel tanks, similar round LED headlamps. There are a lot of similarities, and it's a good thing because these are both nice looking motorcycles. Another thing I should point out is that while we have a Speed T4 here with that matte black exhaust, Triumph has actually updated the model more recently, and it now comes with a much nicer looking brushed stainless steel exhaust for the full system, right from the header pipe to the exhaust. The thing here is they're not very large. Royal Enfields tend to be big, heavy bikes. The Hunter is not. The Triumph Speed 400 and now this T4 have never been large motorcycles. They also weigh roughly the same, 181 kilos, 180 kilos. There's only 1 kg of difference there, but somehow the Speed T4 feels noticeably lighter than the Hunter out on the move. And that's in the feeling of the bike itself and also in the steering. Since we're talking about what the bikes feel like, there is a slight difference in the seating position between the two. Again, it's very similar, and you're going to see that this is a theme of this video. Both these motorcycles are quite similar in a number of ways. There's only one big difference that we'll get to in a bit. Now, riding position. You have a slim fuel tank. Again, both bikes 13-litre fuel tanks. The Triumph is slightly more upright than the Royal Enfield, and it also has a slightly higher seat height. So over longer durations, I found this bike to be marginally more comfortable. We also found that the Triumph's seat itself felt a little more comfortable. This is a little above 800 mm, whereas this is 790 mm. If you are a short rider, that can be a crucial difference. It's about 15-16 mm difference between the two, and it's something that you will feel. With the Hunter, because the seat is lower, I suppose it's slightly tighter in the leg bend, but really not bad. And there is a bit more of a lean forward. This is not something that you will immediately notice, but we felt like after half an hour, 45 minutes, you do realize that you're leaning slightly forward on the Hunter. If you want that sense of involvement in your motorcycle, you will enjoy it, and the Hunter's chassis is an involving chassis. We'll get to that as well. But the Triumph is slightly more comfortable. On the topic of pillion comfort, neither of these bikes are outstanding, but the Hunter is a little short on space. The Triumph's seat was a little better, the grab rails were a little better, so if pillion comfort is important for you, that's the way you should look. While I'm sitting here, my attention is also drawn to the fact that both these bikes feel quite special, even though they're not exorbitantly expensive. Whether it's the switchgear, the fasteners that have been used all over, the quality of the paint, they both are very nice. Triumph sort of elevated the game when it brought out smaller details like the bolts that they use, and in that respect, I'd say it's still slightly higher than the Royal Enfield. But the main thing here is that both bikes do feel well finished, and you feel like you've got something special for the money that you've spent. As far as features go, they are quite simple. They both have digital analog displays, both have small USB ports hidden away, both have slip assist clutches, both have LED lighting. Nothing incredible, but it's really what you need. The Hunter goes one step further. If you buy the top model, you get that tripper navigation display, which means you can get small directional readouts if you connect your phone via Royal Enfield's app. That'll give you navigation assists, which you won't get in the Triumph. But the Triumph gives you a 6-speed gearbox, so it's a bit of give and take. And for bikes like this, modern retro roadsters, I think the features that you're getting are more than sufficient. Now it's time for us to get to the point of the biggest separation between these two bikes, and that would be the engine. I think a good way to start is to just give you a demonstration of what they sound like. It's an engine we know well, it's a good sound, but it's a slow, thumpy motor, and that character is what the Hunter 350 is all about. Triumph takes a different approach. You'll see that that's an air-cooled engine. This has a radiator, it's liquid-cooled, and it has quite a different character. You'll notice that the Triumph has a much faster pace to it. It's a more modern feeling engine, but at the same time, I think they've managed to create a good soundtrack, and more importantly, they've managed to create a very enjoyable, relaxed riding experience, even better than the Speed 400. This engine makes just 31 horsepower, which is a good step down from the Speed 400's 40 horsepower, but it makes up for that with a very tractable nature. You can really keep it in a higher gear at lower speeds, ride around and just roll on and enjoy the torque that's on offer. 36 Nm of torque is quite a bit. It is definitely more than the Royal Enfields, but the Enfield makes up for that with the way it rides. I suppose the bigger difference in just sound and feel between these engines is the way they perform. This engine has more than 50% more power than that engine, and it really shows on paper. In our acceleration tests, the Triumph does 0 to 100 in 8 seconds flat. The Hunter, which is the quickest of the 350cc Royal Enfields, needs 15 seconds for the same run. The Hunter sort of gets up to 80 kilometers very effortlessly. It'll sit at 100 kilometers. It'll feel a little high revving, but no vibration issues. But that's the upper point of its comfort level, and it runs out at 120. The Triumph can sit at triple-digit speeds, and if you're on the highway, you want to make an overtake, there's plenty of room to go above that. So in terms of highway performance, this is really leagues ahead of the Royal Enfield. It's much more effortless and it's less tiring because you have that upper bandwidth of performance if you need to step into it. But it's not just highway performance, because at any point, in any gear, the Triumph will leave the Royal Enfield behind. You'll see a few shots from our shoot where both Gavin and I accelerate away from the camera and he just disappears, whereas I'm ringing the throttle out in the Royal Enfield and it just gets left behind. But speed is not everything about a motorcycle, and funny enough, if you ask Gavin or me or any one of us in the office which engine we actually enjoyed more, it would be the Royal Enfield. It's a lot slower and you need to have that state of mind where you're not into performance. But if you're willing to just chill and you want something that's engaging to ride, enjoyable at a lower speed, there is no engine in our market at this price point that does it as well as Royal Enfield's 350. For the Hunter, the tuning is a little different from the Classic and the Bullet. The sound is a little different. It has a slightly faster beat, but the overall theme of the engine is just the same. And the joy of this engine is letting the revs get really low, almost to the point that you think the bike is going to start sputtering, maybe stall, roll on the gas, and it just pulls you away with a beautiful, smooth, torquey feel. The Triumph's fueling is good, but the Royal Enfield's fueling is just beautiful. Steady throttle at any speed within the city, and it feels wonderfully smooth and controllable. And there is a joy in that sensation plus the sound and the feel of this engine underneath you. So from a performance standpoint, nothing close to the Triumph, but from a casual, relaxed riding standpoint, it really is quite special. Performance is all well and good, but people in this segment value fuel efficiency as well, and surprisingly, the Triumph returned very similar figures to the Royal Enfield, so you are not getting that performance at a sacrifice in terms of fuel efficiency and running costs. Surprisingly, the Hunter also impressed us when it came to the chassis performance. Now, both these motorcycles are fairly simple in terms of the chassis. The Triumph does have a monoshock, this bike has a dual shock setup, but you're running on 17-inch wheels. The previous gen Hunter was really harshly uncomfortable on the rear suspension. That has been completely fixed to the point that this suspension is now a little bit better than the Triumph T4's. It's not plush and soft and absorptive like a Classic or a Bullet, but it deals with bad roads much better than before, and actually a little better than the Triumph as well. The Triumph seems to be nice when the road is smooth, but if you hit bigger bumps, especially at higher speeds, it tends to blow through the suspension, run out of damping, and that can feel a little harsh. Again, the difference is quite small, but when it comes to suspension comfort, the Royal Enfield does seem to have a slight edge. That same thing also goes to handling. The chassis on the Hunter 350 just feels more composed, more planted, and somehow also brings in a lot more agility than you would find with any other 350cc Royal Enfield. These are not the sort of bikes that you go out attacking a winding road on, but if you find yourself in that situation, the Hunter is a little more enjoyable, although you run out of power very quickly. On the Triumph, you will leave the Hunter behind, but it doesn't have that same sure-footed feel. There's a hint of nervousness in it, especially on wet roads. If you run over the dotted white lines in the road, there's a slight sense of instability in it. It's not an unstable motorcycle by any means, but it's not as planted feeling as the Hunter. And I think that sensation was enhanced on the wet roads that we were riding on. Speaking of wet roads, the Hunter CEAT tires definitely gave us more confidence and feedback than the MRFs on the Triumph, but the Triumph's brakes demand less effort from the lever. Actual braking performance in our tests, 60-0, the Hunter surprisingly did better. But I think it's because the ABS intervention on the Triumph was a little more aggressive, which increased the braking distance. But from actual feel and feedback for the rider, this brake requires much less effort, and it's just a better set of brakes to use. Now, on the topic of running costs, Royal Enfield will need you to service this bike every 6 months. It will be more affordable to service than the Triumph, but the Triumph has longer service intervals, once a year or 10,000 kilometers. So know that you will probably be paying more for this bike, but it'll be a little more convenient to run in terms of service. I think that's about what you need to know in terms of these motorcycles. So how do we sum this up? There are two perspectives here, because every one of us who rode these bikes kept going back and forth about what the winner is going to be. Here's how we finally came down to it. The Hunter is a nicer bike if you don't need performance. If you're someone who wants to ride at a chill pace, someone who wants to largely use this bike within the city, it's a more enjoyable bike to ride. On the other hand, this segment of motorcycle is generally one that is bought by someone going in for their first premium bike. Both these bikes are between 2 and 2.5 lakh rupees on road. It's not a small amount of money. They're also likely to be your only motorcycle. And if you're spending that much money, the additional performance that you get with the Triumph just can't be ignored. It is giving you a lot more for the money, and it's not doing that in a way where in the old days, yes, you could get sporty bikes that were a lot faster than a Royal Enfield, but the Royal Enfield customer didn't want that. This bike is giving you that lovely modern classic look. It is nice to ride in the city. It has that relaxed vibe to it, but it's also giving you a lot more and a very valuable badge on the fuel tank. So with all that considered, for just 20,000 rupees more, the Speed T4 is our winner today.